Fellas, UFC 304 is this week. It's a really stacked card. I can't wait. We've finally broken that period of time in the UFC where we were just having stale cards and sometimes we weren't having anything on this week. I mean, Werner Jandiroba and Amanda Lemos was last week. That just shows the state of the UFC right now. So we've finally got a good card. I'm going to try and keep British bias away from these predictions. Obviously, I'm from the UK. There's a lot of UK guys on this card, but I'm going to try and keep it as British bias free as possible. I'm going to be basing these fights based on who I think is going to win. Obviously, no shit. What I've been seeing recently from these guys, I'm going to be predicting every single fight on this card. I think Mokaev versus Manel Cape has now been moved to their prelim headliner, which is something I'm going to have to look out for. But we'll start off with the first fight on this card, which is Shauna Bannon versus Elise Ardelean. This just shows how desperate they are to get Shauna Bannon on the card, because I'm pretty sure Elise Ardelean, I'm pretty sure she's like an OnlyFans model who came from like a super regional scene in Romania. Although her last loss was to Zhang Weili, she's a pretty good striker, is Elise. She's got really good striking. Grappling's not the best, but Shauna Bannon, I don't really know about Shauna Bannon. She looked really good in the regional scene as well, where she racked up 5 wins, which just shows how easy it is for women MMA. She came to the UFC, lost to Buna, Brasil. I think that was on the Aspinall Tabura card, and she didn't look too great. She looked like she didn't really have any power in her shots. She kind of just did a lot of feinting, not the highest output, and she didn't really impress me in that fight. But I'm going to pick her to beat Elise. I think they've just brought her on this card so that Shauna Bannon can fight, and I think, you know, Elise, she's fighting on a regional scene. She's had a few exhibitions. I don't know if she's taking MMA seriously, and she might be one of the lowest level women MMA fighters we've had. She's got a record of 9-5 as well. I'm going Shauna Bannon to win this one by decision. She has looked good on the regional scene, like I said. She didn't look amazing against Buna, Brasil, but she's got the experience now. She's opening up the card. She's had the UFC experience, and she's fighting someone who is probably one of the lowest level female MMA fighters out there, even though she is pretty tough, as Alice. So I'm going to go with Shauna Bannon to win this one by decision. I do not see her finishing Alice, but I do see her just doing enough on the feet to take it to a decision. So I'm going to go Shauna Bannon to win this one by decision. Then we've got Modestas Bukauskas versus Marcin Prachnio. Not the highest level light heavyweight fight, I'm going to be honest. They're both pretty mid. But I'm going to go with Modestas Bukauskas to win this one by decision. Modestas Bukauskas has got some pretty good wins. He beat Tyson Pedro. He beat Zach Puago. He's got some really good wins, and he's only lost in his last 5 fights is to Vitor Petrino, who's a future ranked opponent and is probably the best unranked light heavyweight right now. And Marcin Prachnio's last loss was to Vitor Petrino. They're both good kickboxers on the feet. They are both pretty good kickboxers, which is where I think the fight is going to be taking place. But Modestas Bukauskas has got a lot more better wins recently. Prachnio, he just seems to be pretty chinny. Whenever he gets caught by a big shot on the feet, he seems to, I don't know, man, he just seems to be a bit wobbled. He doesn't really seem to take it the best. And I know that's ironic considering that Bukauskas has just been KO'd by Vitor Petrino, but that's Petrino. So I'm going to go with Modestas Bukauskas to win this one by decision. I just think he's going to completely outstrike Prachnio. Also in the UK as well, he's got that advantage. Or maybe that's going to add pressure, who knows. But I'm going to go Modestas Bukauskas to win this one by decision. The only way I really see Marcin Prachnio winning is if he stops Modestas Bukauskas, because I think if it goes to a decision, I am going to go with Bukauskas. He's not the most dangerous dude, but he's good at planning fights to go to a decision. He's got a lot of decisions on his name. So I'm going to go Modestas Bukauskas to win this one by decision. Then we've got Sam Patterson versus Keifer Crosbie. I don't know how serious Keifer Crosbie's taking MMA in general. I mean, he came into the UFC coming on a 2-fight winning streak, and I think he came off like an exhibition boxing match on like a YouTube boxing event as well. He debuted against Kevin Gisette and got submitted in the first round, and Kevin Gisette's more of a striker if anything, but I will say Gisette is a good prospect, so it's not like it's a massive shame. But Sam Patterson does look really good. I know that I remember Sam Patterson for one thing and one thing only, and that's getting put to sleep brutally by Yanal last time he fought in the UK. And I know a lot of people only remember Sam Patterson for that one thing, but in his respect, it looked really good in his last fight at UFC. I think it was 297. His jiu-jitsu had improved a lot. His grappling has improved a lot. Keifer Crosbie, he doesn't really look dangerous on the feet, and his grappling sucks. I'm going to go with Sam Patterson to win this one by submission in the second round. I think he's going to get Keifer Crosbie down pretty comfortably, take him down, get the submission. Keifer Crosbie's best opportunity is if he keeps it on the feet and lands a big shot, but he didn't look good on the feet against Kevin Gisette. I don't know if he's taking MMA seriously. To be completely honest, I don't think he's UFC worthy, and I think after this fight, he's probably going to get cut from the UFC, but we'll have to see. But Sam Patterson, he did look really good in his last fight, and I know he got KO'd by Yanal, but it seems like he hasn't really been affected by that KO over Yanal either, and before the Yanal fight was on a bit of a streak too, so I'm going to go with Sam Patterson to win this one by submission in the second round. Much more of a superior grappler. I assume that's going to be where he's trying to take the fight, and even on the feet, he's not that bad. He's good at backing people against the cage, he's good at landing shots, and he doesn't really seem as gun-shy as I expected him to after he got KO'd by Yanal. I'm going to go Sam Patterson, and I'm going to go by submission in the second round. Then we've got Oban Elliot versus Preston Parsons. Preston Parsons is pretty good. But Oban Elliot just seems to be... The thing is, I don't expect this to be the most interesting fight. I do think it's going to be a lot of holding against the cage. My only worry in picking Oban Elliot to win this fight by decision is the fact that he nearly got finished by Val Woodburn in that first round. He fought Val Woodburn in his last fight, nearly got finished in that first round. But I will say, previous to the Val Woodburn fight, and he did beat Val Woodburn, and even previous to that fight, he was on a big streak, and he looked good in a lot of his fights. He looked really good in that Contender Series fight as well. He's a really impressive grappler, is Oban Elliot. Not the best finisher, doesn't really take the most risks, and I do think he's going to do a very risk-free approach against Preston Parsons. It's a close fight to pick. It's not my most confident pick on this card, but I'm going to go with Oban Elliot to win this one by decision. Preston Parsons is good. He's just not consistent enough, and you add that to the fact that he's fighting in the UK. He's not going to have the advantage there. Maybe that's not something I need to look into too much, but Oban Elliot, I'm going to pick him to win by decision. He had a good streak coming into the UFC. He's looked good in the Contender Series in the UFC so far. I'm going Oban Elliot to win this one by holding him against the cage, imposing his grappling, and getting it done by decision. Then we've got Mick Parkin versus Lucasz Brzeski. This is just a free win to Mick Parkin. I mean, Mick Parkin's a really good heavyweight. Well, he's not a really good heavyweight, but he's definitely one of the better unranked heavyweights. He's on a bit of a streak. I think he's undefeated. He beat Mohamed Usman in his last fight. He's pretty well-rounded. He also trains with the guys like Tom Aspinall and the other good heavyweights in the world. He's got a really good training camp, and I think he will be ranked one day, will Mick Parkin. He's one of the better unranked heavyweights out there. I think he's only 1 or 2 wins away from getting a ranked opponent. And Lucasz Brzeski, I mean, he's won 1 out of his last 5 fights. I think it's an obvious pick that they've just put it in the UK to give Mick Parkin a free win. It's a big step down from Mohamed Usman. In Lucas's defense, he has lost to a lot of, some decent guys. Martin Badai, Waldo Cortez Acosta, another good unranked heavyweight, Carl Williams, and he is quite powerful, is Lucasz Brzeski, but Mick Parkin just seems way too rounded. He's super well-rounded, is Mick Parkin. He's pretty technical. His gas tank isn't that bad, and he can tank a shot. He took a lot of shots from Mohamed Usman, and he was able to keep walking forward. He doesn't let a bad round ruin the fight. I'm going to go with Mick Parkin. He's really well-rounded in this, and Brzeski just doesn't seem to be consistent enough, and I think he will get caught after this fight. He did get a good win over Walker, but I just think Mick Parkin's going to completely piece him up like he did in his UFC debut when he fought Jamel Pog. So I'm going to go with Mick Parkin to win this one by decision, and then hopefully we can see Mick Parkin get a ranked opponent. I thought he should have been fighting somebody like Waldo Cortez Acosta next, but hopefully we can see him face somebody maybe like Rodrigo Nascimento or Marcos Rogero de Lima, just somebody in the rankings, because I think he deserves it. He is undefeated, and he's actually got a good streak going on. If he can beat Brzeski, which I really do think he will, I think he should get a ranked opponent, and I'm not going to pick him to win by finish. Mick Parkin doesn't really have a style that favours a finish. He's got a very light style. He kind of just tags for the 1-2 and then goes back to defense. He doesn't really seem like a big finisher, so I'm going to go Mick Parkin to win this one by a comfortable unanimous decision. Then we've got Caolan Loughran versus Jake Hadley, UK versus Ireland. I'm going to go with Caolan Loughran to win this one. I'm going to go with the Don to win this fight. Jake Hadley, I don't know why he's doing this. I mean, he's on a 2-fight losing streak to the flyweights, Cody Durden and Charles Johnson. And I know they're not the worst losses. I mean, Cody Durden's pretty good. Charles Johnson, after that Joshua Van performance, we know that he's really good. But he's fighting on short notice on a 2-fight losing streak in a completely different division against a stylistic nightmare. Jake Hadley is not a good grappler. He has been out-grappled multiple times in the flyweight division, and now he's fighting on short notice against a bantamweight guy who's pretty good at grappling. Caolan Loughran's a good grappler. He couldn't really get going against Lapilus at UFC Paris, but in his last fight against Angel, he looked like he'd improved his stand-up a lot, and his grappling offense was there. I'm going to go Caolan Loughran to win this one by decision, maybe even a submission, but I'm going to go with the safe option of a decision to Jake Hadley. It's just a really difficult fight for Jake Hadley. Unless he can catch him with a big shot on the feet, I'm going to go with Caolan Loughran to win this one by decision. I'm not going to go Caolan Loughran, a really good prospect at this moment, but he's definitely more favourable to pick in this fight than Jake Hadley. I'm going Caolan Loughran. Molly McCann versus Buna Brasil. I'm going to go Molly McCann to win this one by a brutal KO. I know that Molly McCann has lost to some pretty bad competition. I know she lost to Erin Blankfield, which isn't bad competition, and I know she lost to Story Elenko, which was literally a gifted win, and she got finished in the first round. But I feel like Molly McCann's really started to lock in. In her last fight against Belbita, she looked really good. Her grappling seemed to have improved a lot, and I think she's starting to become a lot more well-rounded, and she's starting to take MMA a little bit more seriously. I think Molly McCann's going to start racking up a few wins, and again, it seems like a win that is very favourable for Molly McCann. We know she cracks on the feet. Buna Brasil, Hasn't got the best chin. She's been caught a lot, and we know that Molly McCann can crack. We know she's a powerful, we know she's a powerful fighter. I'm going to go with Molly McCann to win this one by KO in the first round. I think this is a very favourable matchup. Brasil isn't a bad striker, but I think Molly McCann's way too well-rounded. Well, I'm not going to call her well-rounded, but I think she's got a lot of grappling that she can now impose, and I think because she's good at backing people against the cage, because she's good in the clinch, and because she's good at landing big shots and sleeping people, I'm going to go with Molly McCann to win this one by KO in the first round. I think she's going to time Buna Brasil perfectly. Like I said, Buna Brasil, she didn't look amazing against Shauna Bannon. I know Shauna Bannon is not the best competition, but she didn't look amazing against her. She just kind of did just about enough to get the win. I'm going to go with Molly McCann. She seems much bigger as well than Brasil, so I am going to go with Molly McCann to win this one by KO in the very first round. I think she's going to clip her with a big shot, finish with ground and pound, and she will be back on the winning streak. Hopefully the delusion isn't there, though. Then we got Nathaniel Wood against Daniel Pineda. Nathaniel Wood's probably one of the best unranked featherweights in the world. I mean, he's got some really good wins already. Charles Rosa, Charles Jourdain, Andre Philly, which has aged really well. And I feel like in his last fight against Mohamed Naimov, he was kind of done a bit dirty. There was a lot of controversial decisions from the referee. Mohamed Naimov was very, very dirty in that fight, and I kind of feel bad for Nathaniel Wood. And Nathaniel was really good. Daniel Pineda is not really that good. I mean, he's not really that good. He hasn't really looked good recently. He's been losing to guys like Swanson and Caceres, which I guess are good opponents as well. But he just, even in his wins, he hasn't really been looking too impressive in his wins. He's nearly 40 years old. And I'm going to go with Nathaniel Wood to win this one by TKO in the third round. Nathaniel Wood, he can crack, and he's really good at engaging in a scrap and landing on his opponents. And I feel like Daniel Pineda, he's going to be backing up against the cage a lot. Nathaniel Wood's going to time him perfectly at one point, and I'm going with Nathaniel Wood to finish Daniel Pineda in that third round by TKO. I just want to see Nathaniel Wood get a ranked dude, man. I know it's probably not going to happen anytime soon, especially with a win over a guy like Pineda, but I just want to see Nathaniel Wood against, because he's good enough for the top opposition. I really do believe that Nathaniel Wood's good enough for the top opposition. I feel like he has just been done dirty a lot, but no. Nathaniel Wood, he's going to TKO Daniel Pineda in that third round. And then we've got the featured prelim of the night, Mokaev Mokaev versus Manel Kape. I think the winner of this fight is getting a title shot. I don't understand why this isn't on the main card. This is a #1 contender fight for the flyweight belt between undefeated Mokaev Mokaev and Manel Kape, who's a big star. But I'm going to go with Mokaev Mokaev to win this one by decision. It's a really tricky fight for Mokaev. But I think if there's anybody that Mokaev is going to lose to win this division, it's not going to be somebody like Manel Kape. If Mokaev Mokaev is going to lose, it's going to be to somebody like obviously Pantoja, a grappler, Steve Erceg, someone like that. I just can't see somebody like Manel Kape being able to beat Mokaev Mokaev, and I just don't know how disciplined Manel Kape is. He's been missing weight, he's been pulling out of fights. I just don't know how disciplined this dude is, and I think Mokaev Mokaev, on the feet, this is definitely Manel Kape's fight to win. If his takedown defense is on point in this fight, it's definitely his fight to win. Mokaev's a very athletic striker, but it seems like whenever he gets into striking range, he kind of just shoots a panic takedown, and he did that a lot against Alex Perez. And also, the thing about Mokaev that I don't like is he faces adversity nearly every single fight. In that fight with Filo, he nearly got submitted. In that fight with Elliot and Perez, he was getting pieced up on the feet. And I feel like he's a very... not lucky, but he always faces adversity, which you can't really afford to do with a striker as good as Manel Kape. But I'm going to go with Mokaev Mokaev to win this one. I think he's going to take Manel Kape down. I think he's going to do enough with the grappling to beat Manel Kape. It's a really difficult fight for Mokaev, which is why I think he deserves a title shot if he wins. But I'm interested to see how Mokaev's striking is shown up. He's never lost a fight as well. And he's got some pretty good wins as Mokaev as well. I mean, he's beaten Charles Johnson, Filo, Elliot Perez, Cody Durden as well. All of these guys, I mean, a lot of these guys are ranked and the other ones are coming off wins. So he's actually got a really good resume as well. I'm going to go Mokaev Mokaev to win this one by decision. I think he's going to take Manel Kape down, do enough on the ground to get the win. And on the feet, that's Manel Kape's place to win, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to get going. I mean, it is only a 3-rounder as well, which is also going to favour Mokaev because Mokaev's a very high-action type of fighter. Then we have Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze. This is going to be an absolute banger between two strikers. Giga Chikadze just doesn't really he just hasn't really impressed me a lot recently. He looked very, very gun-shy against Alex Caceres. It seems like ever since that fight with Calvin Kattar, Giga Chikadze's kind of just turned into a really gun-shy striker compared to what he was before. He just seems like kind of a Walmart version of Yair Rodriguez. He's a really good kickboxer, and he's really good at timing people perfectly, but he's had that long layoff after the loss to Calvin Kattar, which I guess doesn't look good in retrospect, and he didn't look amazing against Alex Caceres either. So I'm going to go with Arnold Allen, and I'm going to go with Arnold Allen to win this one by TKO in the 3rd round. Allen's so dangerous. I mean, you look at Allen's losses as well. He lost to Max Holloway, and he arguably put the best performance on against Max Holloway compared to the rest of the featherweights and the other guys that he's fought. Holloway KOs Justin Gaethje, KOs Korean Zombie, batters Calvin Kattar, and all these other guys. And Arnold Allen actually had a quite competitive fight with him. And then the fight with Evloev was really controversial as well. And before that, he was just smoking people. The fight with Dan Hooker, the performance against Kattar, the fight against Youssef. I think Allen's a top 5 featherweight in the world, and I'm going to say that he beats Giga Chikadze by 1st round KO. I think he's going to back him up against the cage, land a big right hand, wobble Giga Chikadze, and just go for the inbred finish that Arnold Allen always seems to do. This dude, whenever he cracks an opponent, he can smell blood, and he just goes for a finish. All guns blazing, throws everything out the kitchen sink, and I think he's going to do that against Giga Chikadze in the 1st round. Especially in the UK as well. Allen in the UK, after his last performance in the UK against Dan Hooker, he might be able to do it again. I'm going to go Arnold Allen to win this one. Giga Chikadze's best opportunity is if he comes up with like a kickboxing masterclass across 3 rounds and beats Allen by decision, but I don't think he does. I'm going to go Arnold Allen to win this one, and I'm going to say TKO's Giga Chikadze in the 1st round because he's powerful, he's a really good kickboxer, and I think he is one of the top 5 featherweights in the world right now. And then we have Christian Leroy Duncan versus Gregory Rodriguez. Again, I'm not sure why this is on the main card, but it's a really good fight. This is a really, really good fight. It's really hard to pick as well. I've been looking at this fight for the past couple of days, and I've really been struggling on who I'm going to pick, but I think I'm going to settle on Gregory Rodriguez. I mean, they're both really good. Christian Leroy Duncan is one of the best prospects in the UK right now in the middleweight division. In his last fight against Ribeiro, he absolutely battered him. He's training with a good team. He's a really good grappler. He's a really nice, crafty kickboxer as well as Christian Leroy Duncan. And I think he has a bright future in the middleweight division. But Gregory Rodriguez, I feel like he's just a stylistic nightmare for Christian Leroy Duncan, especially for Christian Leroy Duncan to prepare for on short notice. I mean, first of all, Gregory Rodriguez has extremely heavy hands. Even though I would say the more crafty striker is Christian Leroy Duncan, Rodriguez has really heavy hands. He can crack, he's powerful, he's a really good striker, and he suffered a loss to Bruno Ferreira, which has aged quite well considering Bruno Ferreira is doing that to everyone. And he's coming off a good win over Brad Tavares. And I don't think he KOs Christian Leroy Duncan, but I think he will be landing the bigger shots on the feet, and I think his shots will have a lot more impact. And on top of that, I know that Christian Leroy Duncan might try and impose the grappling. That's not going to be easy to do against Gregory Rodriguez. Gregory Rodriguez trains with a really good team. He's got really good jiu-jitsu. He's got really good, he's got overall just a really good grappler is Gregory Rodriguez. It's going to be a competitive fight. They're both well-rounded. But from based off what I've seen recently in the opponents that Gregory Rodriguez has been facing, I'm going to say that he wins this one by, I'm going to go with decision. I know this is one of those fights that could easily end in a finish, but I think the safe option is to go with Gregory Rodriguez to win this one by decision. Christian Leroy Duncan's best opportunity is just to chin Gregory Rodriguez or maybe latch up a submission, but I don't see that happening because Gregory Rodriguez has really good submission defense and offense. I'm going to go Gregory Rodriguez, but it's a banger of a fight. I can't wait for this fight, and I'm glad that this fight has been made because Christian Leroy Duncan's original opponent, it was just a free win for Duncan, and I didn't really like that considering he fought Ribeiro, but now that he's actually facing a big step up against Gregory Rodriguez, big fan of this matchup, but I'm going to go with Gregory Rodriguez to win this one by decision. Then we have Bobby Green versus Paddy Pimblett. Bobby Green versus Paddy Pimblett. I'm going to go with Bobby Green to win this one, and I'm going to say wins it by decision. I don't know why anyone would pick Paddy Pimblett to win this fight. Paddy Pimblett gets caught a lot. His stand-up isn't good. We know his striking needs a lot of improvements, and he gets caught a lot on the feet. Bobby Green is known for that. He's a slick boxer. He put on an absolute performance against Jim Miller. He KO'd the prospect of Grant Dawson. He was landing shots against Tony Ferguson. We know that Bobby Green's a really good and effective boxer. He is going to absolutely piece up Paddy Pimblett on the feet. And before anyone even mentions Paddy Pimblett's grappling, that's obviously his main game plan going into this fight is to use the grappling. But Bobby Green's takedown defense is amazing. He's displayed it multiple times. He's got really good takedown defense, does Bobby Green. I think he's going to piece Paddy Pimblett up on the feet. I mean, he looked amazing against Jim Miller. He looked amazing against Grant Dawson. He had a better performance against Tony Ferguson than Paddy Pimblett did. Paddy Pimblett, in a lot of his fights, he just hasn't really done anything impressive. He out-grappled Tony Ferguson in 2023, and it was the end of 2023. Well done. Didn't beat Jared Gordon, and his other fights were all against cans. So I'm going to go with Bobby Green to win this one. I think he's going to piece up Paddy Pimblett on the feet. I think he's a stylistic nightmare for Paddy Pimblett in the lightweight division. I would favour Pimblett more to beat a guy like maybe some of the other lightweights. What's his name? I forgot his name, Renato Moicano. I would favour Pimlet to beat a guy like Moicano or Drew Dober or just someone else in the lightweight division over Bobby Green, because Bobby Green's a nightmare. He's going to piece up Paddy Pimlet in my opinion, and unless Paddy Pimlet can catch Green with a massive shot, which is unlikely, or latch up a submission, I'm going to go with Bobby Green to win this one by decision. And then the co-main event, Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades. I'm going to go with Tom Aspinall. I'm going to go with first round KO. I really hope Aspinall wins this fight. I really do. I was over the moon when he beat Sergey Pavlovich. I was over the moon when he beat Marcin Tibera. I've been following this dude since his fight with Sergey Spivak pretty much. And he's probably one of my favourite fighters in the UFC right now as well. He's a champion, the people's champion. I'm going Tom Aspinall to win this one by KO in the first round. Now, with that being said, Curtis Blades is a really bad matchup because he's got really heavy hands, does Curtis Blades. He's very, very powerful, and he does a really good job at mixing his striking up with his grappling, and we know him for being one of the best wrestlers in the heavyweight division. He showed it multiple times. He showed it against Volkov. He's shown it before. His wrestling is really good, and I feel like he's a nightmare matchup for Tom Aspinall. If there's anyone in the heavyweight division that I would pick to beat Tom Aspinall, it would probably be John Jones and Curtis Blades, but Tom Aspinall's different, man. He's a different breed of heavyweight. Tom Aspinall is the new breed of heavyweight. He is that guy in the heavyweight division. He's got elite grappling, as he's shown in multiple fights. His submissions that he's got, his ability to latch up submissions, the fact that he's been training jiu-jitsu for so long. He's by far the fastest heavyweight in the world as well. He can land that 1-2 on any heavyweight, and he's significantly faster than anyone. He's powerful as well. He has really heavy hands, hits like an absolute truck. He's a really fluid striker. I view Tom Aspinall how most people view Islam Makhachev. I don't see anyone really beating Tom Aspinall. The only way I see Tom Aspinall losing in the heavyweight division is if somebody catches a big shot on him. I would bet my channel that Tom Aspinall will never get outclassed in the octagon. And by outclassed, I mean he doesn't get caught by a big shot, but rather he gets outclassed for 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds straight. I'm going to go with Tom Aspinall to win this one, and I'm going to say he wins it by KO in the first round. I think he's going to back Curtis Blades up against the cage. I think he's going to stuff the takedowns, and I think eventually he's going to land that 1-2, wobble Curtis Blades, and then go for the finish. It's a difficult fight for Aspinall, it really is, but I feel like he's unstoppable in the heavyweight division right now. We are witnessing the best heavyweight in the world. I'm going to go with Tom Aspinall, and I hope he gets it done. This is the fight I really hope I am right about this fight. And I'm going to go Tom Aspinall. KO in the first round. I mean, he's already beaten 4 ranked heavyweights right now. Blades, I mean, he beat Jelton Almeida when he was losing the first round. He got finished by Sergey Pavlovich. He got an injury win over Tom Aspinall. He hasn't been, I mean, he's looked good in his past couple of fights, but nothing over the moon. I'm going to go Aspinall, and I'm going to say he gets it done by KO in the first round. Then we've got the main event, Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. I've been saying this leading up to the fight. This fight is getting way too much hate. Listen, it's not the most intriguing fight right now in the UFC, I understand that. But people saying it's going to be the most boring fight of the year. I don't get it. You've got two guys who are on a winning streak. Look at their streaks. They're both on a massive winning streak. You know, they've both got a lot against each other. They're both, I mean, you look back to their first fight, where their first fight was going, it was a really fun fight. Leon was piecing up Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad's a hungry guy who's coming to win. I don't know why people are hyping this up as if it's going to be a really bad fight. I'm not saying it's going to be 10 out of 10. I'm just saying it's going to be better than what people are making it out to be. But if we do go back to their first fight, it was looking like Leon Edwards was definitely piecing up Belal Muhammad. He seemed to be the better striker. He seemed to be landing the better shots, and he seemed to be just doing overall better in that fight with Belal Muhammad. And people love to talk about how good Belal Muhammad's improved, in which he has since their fight. You know, he looked really good against Gilbert Burns and Sean Brady, and he was very dominant against Stephen Thompson and Vicente Luque. He's a really good high-pressure wrestler. He's like a better version of Colby Covington. But what about Leon? Leon has become one of the best anti-wrestlers in the welterweight division. He showed that against Usman, he showed that against Covington, and we know of him for having some of the most technical striking, not only in the division, but in the entirety of the UFC. So I'm going to go with Leon Edwards to win this one, and surprise, surprise, I'm picking him to win by decision. I think he's just going to piece up Belal Muhammad. I think it goes very similar to the first fight as well. Leon's a really good striker. I think he's going to piece up Belal Muhammad. He's one of the best anti-wrestlers in the UFC. He's much more of a superior striker to Belal Muhammad as well, even though Belal Muhammad's striking is kind of slept on. Belal's 36. I think he's airing towards the end of his career. And the last bad performance that Belal Muhammad has was ironically against Leon Edwards. I'm going to go Leon Edwards to win. I know if there's going to be somebody in the welterweight division that beats Leon, I see it being Jack Della Maddalena. If not him, Shavkat. I think Belal Muhammad, even though he has a decent opportunity, I think Belal Muhammad's best opportunity to beat Leon Edwards was back in 2019 when Leon's grappling hadn't really improved. I'm going to go with Leon to win this one by decision, but that is my full card prediction for UFC 304. It's a really good card. I can't wait for it. Let me know your thoughts on this card. Who you think is going to win? What are your thoughts on my predictions? And thank you for watching.